How to rekindle a lost creative spark. Have you ever sat in a quiet room, looking out the window, and wondered, where did that part of me go? The part that used to dream, to draw, to write, to build? You used to make things. You used to imagine things. But now, it feels like that spark has gone dim. Not completely gone, just quiet. Waiting. And maybe, just maybe, it's time to wake it up again. You're not alone in feeling this way. So many people over 60 tell me the same thing. Life became about routines, responsibilities, and doing what needed to be done. Creativity? That started to feel like a luxury we couldn't afford. Or worse, it started to feel like something we weren't allowed anymore, like it belonged to the younger version of ourselves. But let me tell you something that's been true in every story I've heard and every person I've met. Creativity doesn't age. It doesn't retire. It doesn't leave us. It just waits, sometimes for decades, for us to remember it. The beauty is, you don't need a canvas or a novel or a grand masterpiece to be creative again. You just need a tiny doorway. And today, I want to help you find that doorway. Not by chasing after some big dramatic goal, but by doing what's gentle, natural, and real. Something as simple as asking yourself, what did I love doing when no one was watching? For some people, that might be humming a tune in the kitchen. For others, it's arranging the table just so. Maybe for you, it was doodling on the edge of old notebooks, or writing letters you never sent, or planting flowers and giving them names. That little glimmer of joy, that's your spark. And we're going to follow it. Start small. No pressure. No shoulds. Just a quiet moment to reconnect. Maybe today, it's opening a drawer and finding that old box of watercolors you forgot you had. Maybe it's flipping through a photo album and noticing how you used to frame a shot just right. Or maybe it's grabbing a journal and writing the words, "Today, I remembered." What happens next isn't the point. What matters is that you remembered. And when you remember, something shifts. Your shoulders drop. Your eyes soften. That little ache inside, the one that says, "I miss myself," starts to ease. Here's something I want you to try tonight. It's simple, but powerful. Find a quiet place, maybe by the window, maybe in bed before sleep. And ask yourself this, what if I gave myself permission to play again? Not to perform. Not to impress. Just to play. Like you did when you were 7. When the crayons were your magic wands. When the stories you told in your head were realer than the news on TV. That version of you? Still here. Still waiting. Still wonderfully alive. Sometimes, we need a nudge. So let me give you one. Tomorrow morning, do one tiny thing that makes no sense to anyone but you. Hum a song out loud. Rearrange the magnets on the fridge into a smiley face. Pick a leaf from the garden and draw it with a pen, even if your hand shakes. That little act? That's the beginning. That's your creativity whispering, "Thank you for remembering me." Because when we stop expecting art to be perfect, when we stop demanding our expressions make sense to the world, something magical happens. We create anyway. We find that the spark isn't gone, it was just sleeping under the weight of years. And now, we're gently lifting the covers off. Let yourself be surprised. You might find joy in things you never thought were yours. Maybe you'll sit down to write a poem about your first dance, and end up laughing at how awkward you were. Maybe you'll knit something with colors that clash wildly, and love it because it's yours. Or maybe you'll just watch the way the sunlight hits your teacup and think, that's beautiful. That moment of noticing? That's creativity, too. We're not chasing youth here. We're reclaiming something deeper. A part of ourselves that's been quiet for too long. A part that doesn't care about wrinkles or years. A part that knows joy, and wonder, and how to find magic in the simplest things. Some people think creativity is only for artists. But I believe it's for everyone with a beating heart. Creativity isn't about talent. It's about attention. And the truth is, the older we get, the more deeply we're able to notice things others rush past. That, right there, is a gift. We see the details in a child's laughter, and the pattern of leaves on a sidewalk, and the way the wind carries a smell from 50 years ago and brings back a memory so clear it stops us in our tracks. That sensitivity? That's the soul of creativity. Maybe your spark feels lost because life has felt too loud. The world around us keeps shouting, demanding, pushing. But creativity doesn't live in noise. It lives in quiet curiosity. And the beautiful thing is, after 60, many of us finally have the quiet we once wished for. Now the question is, what will we do with it? Here's something that works like magic. Go somewhere you haven't been in years. Not far. Just different. A park you used to walk in. A corner of your own home you forgot you loved. Sit there, without distraction. And listen. Let your senses lead the way. What do you see, hear, smell, remember? Creativity doesn't always come charging through the front door. Sometimes it tiptoes in through the window, disguised as stillness. Another gentle way to invite your spark back is to learn something new, but in a playful way. Not for a certificate. Not for anyone else. Just for the joy of discovery. Have you ever tried writing a story about your childhood from the point of view of your old family dog? Or painting with your non-dominant hand just to see what it feels like? Or maybe singing along to a silly song you used to love in the car? It doesn't have to be good. It just has to be yours. One of the biggest blocks I hear from people is this, but I'm not good at it. And I always say, who said you had to be? Being good isn't the point. Being alive is. When you let yourself play without judgment, you create space for joy to return. You also create a space where you can laugh at yourself again. And laughter? That's one of the most creative acts of all. There's something else you can try, something both tender and powerful. Write a letter. Not to someone else. To yourself. Write to the version of you who once danced barefoot in the grass, who stayed up late just to finish a poem, who built castles out of cardboard. Tell them you remember. Tell them you miss them. Tell them you're ready to meet them again. Then fold the letter, tuck it somewhere safe, and know you've just created something sacred. Sometimes, your creativity might need a little companionship. And that's okay. Maybe you could join a community class. Not a serious one where people laugh, forget the time, and leave with paint on their hands or flour on their faces. Or maybe you invite a friend over to cook a dish you've never tried before, turning your kitchen into your own little studio. Shared creativity often brings double the joy and half the fear. And if your hands aren't as steady as they used to be, or your eyes need a little help, don't let that stop you. Creativity doesn't live in perfection. It lives in presence. Even a simple act like arranging flowers from your garden, or humming a tune while you fold clothes, becomes sacred when done with care. Every movement can be art, if it's filled with intention. And here's something gentle but important, let go of the voice that says, it's too late. That voice isn't yours. It's fear dressed in nostalgia. The truth? It's never too late to begin again. In fact, you're in the perfect season to create from a place of wisdom, memory, and grace. What you make now doesn't need to prove anything. It just needs to feel like you. So if you find yourself holding back, waiting for the right moment, here's the secret, the right moment isn't coming. Because it's already here. It's now. This breath. This heartbeat. This idea that just fluttered across your mind as you listened. That's the invitation. Say yes. When we think of creativity, we often imagine a sudden burst of inspiration, a lightning strike. But the truth is, most of the time, it's more like lighting a candle. Quiet. Slow. Intentional. You strike the match, you shield the flame with your hand, and you wait for it to catch. And sometimes, it flickers out. But other times, it glows, and keeps glowing. Maybe your candle has been sitting in the dark for a while. That's okay. That doesn't mean the wax has gone bad. It just means it's waiting for you to strike the match again. Today, let's light it. Even if your hands tremble. Even if your heart doubts. Even if your mind whispers, why bother? Because creativity isn't about changing the world. It's about staying connected to yours. It's about waking up in the morning and knowing that you made something. A poem. A loaf of bread. A silly rhyme. A photo. A memory. It doesn't matter what. What matters is that it's real and it's yours. One of the most beautiful things I've seen is the way people light up when they reconnect with that part of themselves. There's a shift, not just in posture or energy, but in presence. You can feel when someone has started making things again. They become more curious, more alive, more open. The world stops feeling so small. The days feel less heavy. And time? Time starts to feel like a friend again. So here's a question I want to leave you with. What would your day look like if you let it be a canvas? Not a schedule. Not a checklist. A canvas. What colors would you use? What music would you play in the background? What would your first brushstroke be? Maybe it's journaling for 5 minutes in the morning. Maybe it's walking outside and letting your thoughts form a song. Maybe it's cooking dinner like you're painting flavors on a plate. Whatever it is, let it be yours. Let it remind you that the story isn't over. Not even close. And if you're afraid to begin, begin anyway. Begin scared. Begin unsure. Begin without knowing where it will take you. That's the brave thing. That's the creative act. And please remember, you don't have to do it alone. There are others just like you, sitting at home, feeling that same ache, wondering if they're too late. You can be the light for someone else just by sharing your spark. Talk about what you're making. Show your small experiments. Celebrate the mess. Encourage each other. That's how we build a community of creators, not competitors. So today, I hope you do one thing. Just one. Light the candle. Write the first word. Make the first note. Touch the first brush to paper. Let that be enough. Because it is. You don't need anyone's permission but your own. You don't need to impress a single soul. You just need to say yes to yourself. And if no one's told you this lately, let me be the one to say it. You are still wildly creative. You are still full of wonder. You are still capable of beauty. And it's never, ever too late to begin again. If this message touched something in you, some quiet corner of your spirit, tell me about it in the comments. I'd love to hear what you're thinking of creating next. Maybe it's a story, a recipe, a melody, or just a walk with your thoughts. Whatever it is, I hope you follow it. And if you found this video helpful, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more conversations just like this one. We're building a space for gentle growth, for rediscovered purpose, for creative souls, no matter the age. Until next time, take a deep breath, smile at yourself in the mirror, and remember, you are not starting over. You are simply continuing, with more wisdom, more courage, and a heart that still knows how to dance. Here's to the spark. Here's to you. And here's to living your most creative chapter yet.